Welcome to Living Recovery, Episode 1, and welcome my guest, Darci Collings. Thank you, Darci, for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Travis.
How are you today?
Doing awesome.
Well, I love to be able to talk about recovery because we're both in long-term recovery. So let's open up and tell me a little bit about your story.
Yeah, in 11 days, I will celebrate 7 years in recovery.
That's awesome.
And when it comes around this time, I start thinking back of what it was like, right?
Mhm.
And really what led it up to me finding recovery and finding sobriety. And, and I try not to think about like the things I did, just more or less just my experience, strength, and hope, right? Like growing up, I had debilitating panic attacks. I had an eating disorder.
Mhm.
But I've thought about just at 12 having my dad come home and tell me that I was going to be one of those 400-pound women on the Richard Simmons show. And that was one of those things that I had carried for most of my life. And I know that.
And that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot to carry at a young age.
At 12 years old.
At 12 years old to be,
12
yeah,
years
to
old.
have that embedded in your brain. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And then to be handed diet pills just like months after that. And so from an early age, just my thoughts were always very surface, it was all appearance. And, and then just that self-hatred just built and built and built. And when I had my daughter, Harley, I was in the hospital and they'd given me a pain pill. And all of the 24 years of self-hatred in that moment, it was fixed.
Gone.
Yeah. Gone. I felt confident. I had that moment of, I have arrived.
Isn't that strange how that works?
Uh-huh.
It's like, yeah, I've arrived. It's just like all of a sudden you feel amazing.
Right.
And it's that fake feeling because we're not feeling worthy
Right.
in our lives.
Right. That pill, it felt to me that it fixed all of those years of self-hate and dislike for who I was. And, so of course, just all of the resentments, all of the shame and all of the guilt that led up to that point, it was just fixed with that pill. And then 8 years of chasing after that, and it wasn't just pain pills after that. It was doctor prescribed medications. I had a doctor that prescribed me antidepressants, antipsychotics, benzos, Adderall, and I would go in and they would say, "How are you feeling?"
Yeah.
I mean, of course I lied, so I could get more pills.
Yeah, that's what
But
we
it
did.
was,
Yeah.
I was miserable.
Yeah.
I was miserable. And, and then it turned into meth and then heroin and homeless 3 different times. I remember like the last 6 months when I was out, I was washing myself in gas station bathrooms, sleeping in a car, just wishing that God would just let me die if I had to continue another day like I did that day.
Well, and like you just mentioned, it started with one.
Started with
One
pill.
So people don't think that they can be addicted at one pill.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I think that's what's so scary about addiction. I didn't know what addiction was. I really wasn't educated as far as, what that meant to be addicted to something. And so I take that one pill and I feel amazing and I feel great and I feel like I can do life. And then 10 months later, I've got this newborn and I'm chasing these pills, not knowing where to get them.
Mm-hmm.
My doctor cuts me off. It was only so long that I could say that my back hurt or my shoulder hurt from having my baby, which I know your back and shoulder hurting after you have a baby, but I made it work.
I was the same way. I had 12 different doctors I was going to.
Right.
I wasn't using with other people.
Mm-hmm.
I was my problem and my solution, I guess, at the same time. So I had 12 different doctors that I was going to because I thought I was an expert at getting what I wanted by using my insurance.
And it worked until it didn't work.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that was that chase. It worked until it stopped working. Mm-hmm. And it stopped working pretty quickly. But at that point there was no going back. I had no control. I was doing things that I never imagined in my life. I never imagined in my life that I would be doing those things to people, stealing, cheating, lying.
Mm-hmm. And you know what the biggest thing is a lot of people ask, well, why don't you just quit?
Oh man, I wish it was
that easy. Why
that
don't you
easy.
just quit?
I wish it was that
My kids
easy.
would say that. My wife would say that. Why don't you just quit?
Just stop.
Just stop doing
it.
Just stop. Let's figure this out. And it's to try to explain to somebody that doesn't understand addiction. It's like living like Groundhog's Day every day.
Mm-hmm.
You wake up, you're sick, you have to get well, and then you have to plan for the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a period of days. And all of a sudden for me, it was like 12 years had gone by.
Right.
And it didn't matter how many times I got arrested. It didn't matter how many times I wrecked a car. It didn't matter how many times I lied to family to get money or stole, like you talked about.
Right.
Because I was so stuck in that addiction, and it's just all about me during that time.
Right. Well, and it was survival at that point.
Yeah.
You know, they say that it does something to your brain, and at that point, like if you do not have these drugs or substances, you are going to die.
Yeah.
Is how your brain perceives it. And so there's no logic in what we do, and I wish we could just stop. I wish it was that easy. I lost parental rights to my daughter.
Yeah.
And you would think that would be motivation enough to just stop. You know, and that wasn't my experience. My experience was that was just another excuse to go even harder because of more shame. And I hated who I was, and I hated myself for what I did to my daughter and to my ex-husband and to my family and friends. And
well, you don't know the way out. You
No.
you don't know how to get out of that.
Right.
I mean, it's not easy.
No, and I had no clue.
Yeah.
No clue. You know, when I was admitted 7 years ago, or it's been a little bit over 7 years ago because I'll be celebrating 7 years in 11 days. But
Yeah. That's awesome. Good
Thank
for you.
you.
Yeah.
I know it's so cool because life just keeps getting better.
Yeah,
The
absolutely,
promises
it
are
does.
real.
Yes.
The promises are real.
Yes.
Living life, I guess I'm doing air quotes, the right way, you know?
Living recovery.
Living recovery.
Living recovery,
I'm living
right?
recovery, and it just continues to get better, and my life is truly blessed today. But I was, over 7 years ago, I was admitted into a psych ward after detoxing at the VOA, which is, if anybody's been to the VOA, they know that it's not a very pleasant experience.
Yeah.
You know, and that was the desperation that I had to find recovery, to finally just say, okay, I am done. I can't live like this anymore. I willingly put myself into the VOA to detox.
That shows where you were at.
I was tired.
And you have to have that willingness and that desperation to change. And because the only thing you have to change is everything.
Everything.
Right? I mean, that's what.
And it was either that or I was going to kill myself. I was so tired.
Yeah.
And I didn't really want to die. And so after I had left the VOA, I had gotten pretty suicidal. You know, again, not really wanting to die, but having no idea how to live. And I was admitted into uni for 9 days, and I had met. I had some marketing person come in, some admissions person for this treatment center in Utah, and you know him well.
I do.
And I love him dearly to this day. And he had said something to me that just gave me that little ounce of hope I needed. And when he said rehab, I was blown away because I didn't think rehab was an option for somebody like me.
Right.
And I think that just goes to my just not being educated really on addiction and rehab. I mean, I had no clue the process of getting into treatment, which is a very difficult process.
And a lot of people don't understand.
They have no clue.
No, they don't know where to start.
And so he gave me this little bit of hope, just saying, I might be able to get you scholarshiped because I didn't have insurance. I didn't have money. I didn't have a home.
Yeah.
And my family wasn't about to pay for me to go to treatment. And from that point on, I was discharged from the hospital. My dad allowed me to come home because he knew I was going to get into treatment. And I had called this man twice a day for 4 weeks. And finally he said, okay, pack your bags.
Let's go.
And I haven't looked back. And I went in and I went full force into treatment, went full force into therapy, into these groups. And I haven't looked back, and truly grateful today for that.
And we were talking earlier that just talking about treatment. So I've been sober just over 11 years.
Awesome.
And today is exactly 11 years when I graduated 95 days of residential treatment.
That's incredible.
And, a lot of people ask, how many times you been? I mean, I went once. I wanted to go in and do the work. I wanted my life back. Well, I wanted a life. I mean, I was a new person and improved. I wanted a life. I wanted my kids to have a father. I wanted my wife to have a husband she deserved. And I wanted to end the patterns that I grew up with. Right. My natural dad died of a drug overdose. I've had multiple family members that have died by suicide or addiction. I just wanted that to end. And I didn't want to continue that. Yeah. So when I got sober, take care of myself, I want to make sure my children are well. Because I want them to not, I understand the trauma I passed down to them, right? That the generational trauma.
Right.
But it's their responsibility to heal. So I want to
Mm-hmm.
set them up for success so we can end that.
Right.
And I think that's the big goal for us
Mm-hmm.
in what we do for a living, working for Maple Mountain Recovery,
Yes.
is to help families and help individuals reclaim their life.
Absolutely.
You
And
know?
addiction is a family disease. It's
Yeah.
not just the addict that needs that help, that needs the resources, that needs, the framework in order to heal. It's the whole family system. When I got into recovery, that was the same experience for me. I went one time. I was in residential for 92 days, and then I did sober living in
I love
IOP for 6 months after that.
Yeah.
And from that point on, like I wanted to make sure that I was healthy for my daughter, whatever our future was going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, her dad was supportive throughout this whole process. He came in and did therapy with me. And so, I didn't know what my relationship was going to look like with Harley. I just knew that I was going to have a relationship with her. And so I wanted to make sure that I was breaking those patterns within myself. Unfortunately, my family didn't get all the treatment too and the therapy. And so it's up to me to really break those patterns and really educate and make sure that I educate her.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, too, with families, they just think that we're the problem. So take the problem away, fix them, bring them back, and everything will be grand.
Well, I'm fixed, so that means they're fixed.
Yeah.
Because I was the problem.
Yeah. It doesn't work like that. You got to take care of the enabling and just all the stuff and and get them happy, healthy, so that we're, all on that pattern of just wellness.
Right.
It's a big deal. And coming up on, you said 7 years.
7 years on the 15th.
Right.
Yes.
And I want to share with people that, this right here is recovery. I think there's a misconception of people are just always homeless.
Mm-hmm.
That it's not my neighbor.
Right.
Or it's, it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter the amount of money you make, the color of your skin, if you live on the east side or the west side. Addiction affects all walks of life. But so does recovery.
Right.
So that's the thing that we want to share,
Yes.
is that this is the face of recovery and that you can get this, and we want you to have this. And I'm excited about this show because I have such a passion for recovery, because it's been something that addiction and recovery has been part of my whole 48 years of life. My own addiction was 12 years and 11 years of recovery, but it's back in the day, people just drank a lot. That was what they did. They drank and they drove in the 80s, and that was kind of the normal back then, And as the society, as we get older, things have changed. You have heroin, you have all the fentanyl overdoses, you have young kids that are taking their own lives. So when we talk about recovery, and it's not just about substance abuse, it's about mental health as well, because mental health affects us all. Everybody has probably some type of trauma, some type of PTSD, anxiety, maybe some depression. So we want to bring just awareness to that. I've suffered from all that, and I found a way to get my life on track, personally.
Yes.
Have you suffered with anything else besides the addiction and the looking in the mirror and thinking you had to take diet pills?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like I had said, at 8 years old, I started having panic attacks. And to be 8 and having a panic attack, you have no idea what you're experiencing. And so this was, it was probably daily that I was having these panic attacks. So that really put me in a place of isolation. I was scared to go out and go to the movies because I was afraid of having a panic attack. And so I've always had, I was diagnosed, early. I think it was like 10 or 11 when I was diagnosed with chronic panic disorder and chronic anxiety. And so I've spent most of my life with anxiety and depression and panic disorder. Yeah. And then the eating disorder on top of that. And so, yes, for mental health, my whole life, I dealt with that.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back more with Darci Collins and hear her story. Thank you. Welcome back to Live in Recovery with Darci Collins, my special guest. Again, thank you so much for joining me and talking recovery.
Thank you so much for having me. I love recovery.
Something we have a passion about.
I know.
It's awesome. Who would have ever thought? I remember the first 4 years into my recovery, I could not find a job. I had drug charges. I didn't have any felonies, but I had drug charges.
Right.
And prior to that, I ran call centers for like 18 years. So I had some pretty high up positions. My resume was great. I thought my interviewing skills were pretty good because I love to talk, right? I love people. And as soon as they'd run my background check, I'd get that letter in the mail saying, thank you, we're going to go with another candidate. And I knew what that was.
Right.
I knew it was my past still, taking over my present. And I learned that just not to give up. That was one of the gifts that recovery has given me is that, whether you're in recovery for 6 months and you land that perfect job or you get a nice car right off the bat, that doesn't happen to most people. It took me 5 years into recovery to get working in this field, to get a calling that I knew that my higher power was directing me towards, right? I didn't understand it at the moment, but I look back now and go, okay, now I know why.
I see what you did there. Yeah.
So, for anybody out there that's struggling, that have gone through what we've gone through, don't give up because you never know what's going to happen on the other side.
Trev, I think it's important that you talk about what the first few years in recovery looked like for you, because for me, it was like, as soon as I got out of treatment, I go to this manic place of, okay, now I need the job, I need the car, I need my own place, I need to get my rights back for my daughter. And I remember my mom sitting me down once and just saying, Darci, slow down.
Yeah.
One thing at a time. And that's how we live today, right? Is a day at a time, sometimes a moment at a time, a second at a time. And so that really resonated with me because that first year, I had the same experience. I had really good jobs before my addiction, and I made really good money. And so when I got into recovery, I didn't have a car, and so I was taking public transportation, so I had to learn that whole system. And then I got a very part-time minimum wage job at a gas station. It was probably the most incredible time in life because it was very simple. Yeah. And it was very perfect. So all I had to devote my time to was my recovery, my daughter, my family, my meetings, and walk to work.
Yep.
And it was so perfect.
And I had a difficult time because it was like all these years I've been taking. My wife had been working really hard, taking care of the kids while I was stuck in my addiction. So when I got into recovery, I thought, I got to start paying bills. I got to start showing up and suiting up. And I did finally, after about a year, get a job with an airline. And they had a corporate meeting with me on a call asking me about my past. So that was the first company that ever asked me about what had happened. And I explained to them in recovery and explained my situation. And they hired me on the spot. And it was like $7.50 an hour. And I had never been so grateful for a job in my life, to where I was like, okay, I'm finally going to start, giving back to my family a little bit financially. And that was kind of the road that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool that I think that, that you share that too. I think that it'll give a lot of people hope, because I guarantee there's people right now that are experiencing that same thing right now is I can't find a job because of my record, because of my past.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really cool that you share that.
Well, and one of the cool things as well is that 10 years had gone by since those charges, and I have it officially all expunged. So I no longer have to say that I have that I have a record.
What a gift that is, too.
Yeah.
To say that 10 years later.
Takes time.
Yeah.
You have to do it. Absolutely.
It all takes, and that's the whole thing, is it all takes time. I was running for 8 years.
Yeah.
And the wreckage that I had created and that I had caused.
And it's exhausting.
Exhausting.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be fixed in a year.
No.
Or 2 years.
Well, and I believe experts say that it takes us 5 years for our brains to really get to that place of recovery.
Right.
To where you're thinking logically and the memory, so it takes time. So I tell a lot of people in early recovery, like, relax, just get a little part-time job. Don't stress yourself out with too much right off the bat.
Right.
Because I think that is you're setting yourself up for failure. And that's why we'll see a higher, relapse rate within that first year or so.
Keep it simple. Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Absolutely.
It was helpful for me, for sure.
Yeah.
And so, as soon as I had gotten a full-time job after, that's when I started working in treatment, was after the part-time gas station job. And man, I'm glad I had that little break
Yeah.
to do that, because as soon as I was working full time, then more things came, right? Then I got a car, and so now I have payments, and just all those things start to add up, and the stresses in life start to add up, and so I'd say take it. If I can share something, is take advantage of early recovery and living very simple.
Yeah. And recovery is different for everybody.
Right.
So if you're a 12-step or meetings or whatever works for you, whether you have a private therapist or whatnot, make sure you're sticking to that.
Right.
Don't, go off that trail, because that's when you start allowing yourself to kind of fall off the wagon a little bit, and you're not working your recovery. So I think that's a big deal.
And it's pretty easy to fall back into those behaviors and those patterns. And I watch it happen quite frequently, and and that, again, thank you for sharing that too, because I think as long as you're doing those daily things, that are habits that hopefully end up being just that, habits to where you don't even have to think about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, habits. When I got into treatment, I had to get to the point where I had a routine down. I'd get up, I'd make the bed, I'd go to shower, because I had forgot those basic living skills. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where, put your dishes away, clean your dishes, put your food away, put the, the thing back on the milk. Because it just little simple things like that. So in early recovery, we try to teach people, make your bed, how to do your laundry, because there's a lot of people that don't have life skills.
Right.
And it's very important that you get that. So, we're going to take one more break, and we'll be right back.
I am a business owner.
I am a mother, a doctor.
I am a student athlete.
A lawyer.
I'm a police officer.
I'm your neighbor.
I needed meth.
Opioids.
I needed coke.
I needed alcohol.
I needed opioids. I needed heroin.
I needed help. Maple Mountain Recovery is here to help you with your healing and recovery. Call 801-499-9316 or visit us online at maplemountainrecovery.com. Hi, this is Travis Whitaker with Maple Mountain Recovery. Thank you for joining us. I want to tell you a little bit about our program. We have a mental health license.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me start over
again and introduce Darci as being with Maple.
Oh, okay.
We're both with Maple Mountain Recovery.
And then we'll just go in.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Hi, I'm Travis Whitaker with Maple Mountain Recovery, and this is Darci Collings with Maple Mountain Recovery as well. How are
Hello. Awesome.
So tell us a little bit about the process. If somebody was calling us at Maple Mountain Recovery, the admissions process on how to get in.
So typically, you'll answer as many questions as you possibly can. A lot of people don't know what questions to ask. And so at that point, I'll ask their name and try to give them as much information as I possibly can. We would do kind of a partial assessment to make sure that we would be the right fit for them. If we find that we're not the right fit, that's one thing I think that is pretty incredible about what we do, is that we will find the right fit for them. And so it's a lot of talking, a lot of getting to know because typically it's a family member that calls in, right?
Yeah.
And so I will talk to the family, find out what their needs are, and then talk to the client and explain to them the process of treatment, what that's going to look like. It's a lot of education, a lot of talking.
Yeah. And we can take not only substance abuse, but we do mental health, so trauma, PTSD, anxiety, depression, all master level therapists. They're all EMDR certified. We do neurofeedback, biofeedback, equine therapy. We have an amazing chef. And I think one of the great things about Maple Mountain Recovery is it's a family feel. We have one owner, so we're not a corporation. So from the moment you walk through the door, you really feel like your family, and that healing process is going to start. That's a big deal for me.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And you'll look out the window and you'll see the owner out mowing the lawn still.
Yeah. And I love that.
He's the dad, the grandpa.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool to have just that person. And have him so involved.
Yeah.
Is so cool.
Yep. And probably I would say 95% of our staff is in some type of recovery. So whether it's their own recovery or they have a family member that's in recovery. So when you come in, if you don't feel like there's somebody that understands or that's like you, you're going to relate to, one of the staff, and not only that, but the clients as well. And during these times as well, we're making sure we're taking care of our clients, with the COVID. So we test all clients before they come in, because we want to make sure our current clients and staff are protected. And that's a huge deal for us.
Yes.
Yeah. So, anything else you'd like to add?
If you're needing help, if you're struggling, if you have a family member that needs help, please reach out.
Yeah. 801-499-9316, or you can visit us at maplemountainrecovery.com. Hi, I'm Travis Whitaker with Maple Mountain Recovery. If you or a loved one are struggling during these times with substance abuse or any trauma or PTSD, we would love to be able to give you some guidance and help you reclaim your lives. If we're not a right fit for you, we will do everything we can to make sure we find the place for you. You can visit us at www.maplemountainrecovery.com, or you can give us a call for one of our mission specialists at 801-499-9316 and start this journey to recovery. I've been in recovery a little over 11 years, and it's been one of the most amazing things of my life.